Good afternoon. Welcome to our interview with exceptional leaders in Homeland Security. To honor Women's History Month, Women in Homeland Security and Homeland Security Today have partnered to introduce to you some of the women who are leading, innovating, and breaking down all barriers in Homeland Security. My name is Lexi Weger, and I'm from Princeton University, currently working at HS Today as a project assistant and exploring the field of Homeland Security. When our team was charged with putting together our features for Women's History Month, we decided that asking some of our emerging leaders to conduct interviews as a way to introduce them to established leaders and to provide exceptional mentoring all at the same time. With that, I am extremely proud to continue the series with Linda Jacksa, retired Deputy Executive Assistant Commissioner, Operations Support at the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. In this role, she's directed services to 60,000 employees across 8 key functional areas: hiring, benefits, work-life programs, workplace safety, personal research, executive services, business systems, and labor and employee relations. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
Well, thank you, Lexi. That was actually my role as the Assistant Commissioner for Human Resources. In my most recent role with Customs and Border Protection, we provide specialized services and support to CBP's frontline mission in a whole host of areas to include intelligence, international relations, forensic services, and the like. So thank you for the time today to be interviewed.
Of course, yeah, we're excited. So if you could talk to us about your position as Deputy Executive Assistant Commissioner, and how you got to that role, and is that the role that you imagined yourself being when you were growing up?
I can answer no, actually. And I don't know that anyone, when they're younger, can really actually envision how they're going to evolve and grow in their careers. You know, for me, I started out with the Customs Service, which then after 9/11 became Customs and Border Protection. But I actually started out in the trade mission, the international trade space for customs, dealing with import and export of international cargo. And I fully intended on using that trade mission throughout my career and evolving in different leadership roles or managerial roles in the trade space. But as I progressed in my career, you know, Customs and CBP had such breadth of diversity of mission and opportunity that quickly became interested in other areas. And I started pursuing those, and that led to a natural evolution in my career that culminated in the operations support leadership role, which was my final leadership position with the agency.
That's great. And so, since you've now taken on this role, what have been, some of your greatest accomplishments and successes?
So I think that's a really good question. You know, as I reflect back on, 35 years of service, there's a couple of key things that stand out for me. The first was I've always had a desire to continue to learn and grow and develop. And as I progressed throughout my career, I would do a little bit of self-reflection, say, okay, what are the areas I really need to fine tune for myself if I want to progress with the agency into a leadership role. And so that desire to continue to grow and develop myself professionally was a big strength and really helped me evolve my career. I think relationships and building really key trusted relationships with people is sort of a foundational thing you need to do early in your career and often and throughout your career. And that really helped me over the 35 years. And then I think, just in the last kind of tail end of my career, maybe the last decade, I really started focusing in on paving the way for the next generation of female leaders. And I really took it upon myself to grow, develop, mentor, coach, and guide some of the female leaders or people that wanted to aspire to be leaders in the organization. And as I reflect on my career and I look back on those people today, it's very gratifying to see that they're successful in their own right. So those are some of the things that I think about when I think about some of the accomplishments.
That's great. And so, as you've started to grow and adapt throughout your career, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced along the way that caused you to have to, pivot or adapt?
Right. I think pivot and adapt is key. I've witnessed several changes over my 35 years of government, from the early 90s of reinventing government, to 9/11, to setting up the Department of Homeland Security, budget challenges, resourcing challenges, administration challenges with different administrations coming in. I think being able to quickly pivot and adapt and be agile and resilient, to be able to navigate those changes very quickly, and in some cases, in fact, many cases, doing a 180-degree pivot on implementing different policy changes depending on the administration. So being agile and flexible and resilient as a public servant becomes really, really critical as you start to navigate some of those changes.
For sure. And so, as you were trying to navigate through it all, were there specific challenges or setbacks that you faced during your time because you were a woman at all? And if so, how were you able to overcome those?
I love this question because I have, again, looking back over 35 years, early on in my career, it wasn't unusual for me to be the only woman in the room representing my area of responsibility. And that can be a little intimidating, right? So just try to envision going into a room and you're the only female. And then also, if you are, in a law enforcement organization like I was, but you're not law enforcement. So you would, over time, I might see more females at the table, but they were law enforcement and I was not law enforcement. That also, too, was a little intimidating. So the question is, and how do you overcome something like that? And I really tried to be mindful of the fact, particularly when I was the only woman in the room, that I'm representing the women of the organization. So it's really incumbent upon me to be bringing my A game, to build that credibility, to establish those trusted relationships, which really served me throughout my career and really helped me overcome some of those challenges, right? So I think for me, it was building those relationships, always keeping my commitments to people, especially early on in my career. If I was the only woman in the room, if I said I was going to do something, I was going to kill myself to do it and do it the best I could because I knew kind of what was on the line. My reputation was on the line, but also women, trying to bring other women into the conversation and trying to pave the way for other female leaders in the future. I took that very seriously. So, showing up, making sure that you're credible with owning what you say you're going to do and being committed to do that and doing that well and building those relationships, I think really helped me.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I mean, you definitely touched on some of them, being dedicated, showing up. But are there other qualities that, you see in yourself, maybe that you gained or you had previously to your roles, that really helped you overcome any sort of adversity or particularly stressful, difficult times?
I just think it goes back to that adaptability and resiliency again, really making sure that you don't take yourself too seriously in any of these meetings too. There are a lot of people that are under a lot of pressure to get things done very quickly. That's the nature of the agency that I worked in. It was a high operational tempo, a lot of pressure. Just making sure that you're flexible and you are able to adapt to those changes and lean on people, lean on your trusted confidants and partners, peers to kind of help you navigate some of those challenges.
For sure. And I think that, like you mentioned, like relationships are very critical, and can be very beneficial. So kind of want to shift it to talk about, who have been some of your role models, whether that be from the time you were growing up to, in the workplace. Who were your mentors, who were your role models?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I'll keep it in the workspace. There are two people that really sort of helped shaped me or were very impressionable to me. either as a young person growing up in CBP, because I started when I was 18 years old. So very impressionable as a young leader coming up in the ranks up until today. Some of those people are still with me. The first one is Carol Hallett. She was I believe, the first female commissioner of the U.S. Customs Service, and that was the organization that morphed into Customs and Border Protection with a couple of other agencies. And what was really unique about Carol was she was the consummate diplomat. She could handle any controversial issue with complete ease. She was able to have a unique ability to connect with people at every level in the organization, regardless of your role. And she always remembered everyone's name, which was incredible given the breadth and scope of her responsibilities. But I think the other thing that she left with me was balance. Balance is really important in these roles. And I would see her every evening, working out in the gym, or sometimes she would go for a run in the morning early on, and she would be coming in as I was starting work, and she would be running into the locker rooms to change and everything. And that really stuck with me because I thought, here is the commissioner, and she's taking time to take care of herself physically, mentally, emotionally, on every level to make sure that she is in the best possible mindset to tackle that work. And I thought, this is something that I need to incorporate as part of my own routine. And then the other person is a person by the name of Chuck Winwood. And he knew me early on from when I was about 18, 19 years old. And he progressed through the agency to become the deputy commissioner for the Customs Service. And then he retired, but he was literally like a real, almost like a second father to me. He was a mentor. He was a friend. He was a confidant. He helped shape the leader that I am today. And he was even at my retirement ceremony recently. And so he calls himself the Alpha and the Omega. He was there in the beginning and he was there in the end. And that really gets back to kind of the theme of today of the importance of those relationships, right? So you can see what people are doing, but just having them as your personal mentors and people that can help shape you. You can bounce ideas off of them. Those were two that were really important to me and still are to this day.
Yeah, that's very special, and it sounds like you're trying to take the wisdom that they imparted on you onto, the next generation of future leaders. So what gives you the most personal satisfaction in the work that you do, and like what has, allowed you to keep at it for all this time?
Well, in CBP, we would always say there's nothing like this mission, the sheer breadth and complexity and importance, to the country of the mission of CBP. So it's extraordinarily gratifying just to be a member of that leadership team and a part of that agency supporting the mission. And that would get me up every day. But being in the headquarters leadership role, being able to see some of the programs and policies and initiatives that we were trying to implement actually get pushed down into a field operational setting and have those elements add value to the mission was tremendously gratifying for me. If we in headquarters had a way to make the execution of the mission easier, more effective, more efficient, better for the tremendous men and women out there on the front line, that was hugely gratifying for me and for my team. And then I guess I would just reemphasize again the mentoring of the talent within CBP so that they can become the next generation of leaders, passing the baton to them and helping them be ready and poised and able to accept those leadership positions of greater importance was also tremendously gratifying as well.
That's great. And so when you were in such a position of great importance, how were you able to balance, your high-powered position with your personal life? How did you sort of manage that all?
Yeah, I love this question because when I was a young person growing up in customs and CBP, I would interview leaders myself and ask them the same question. And every single one of them told me this was going to be a challenge or was a challenge for them. Going back to the Carol Hallett example, being a young, impressionable person in customs and seeing what other leaders did, and then just really thinking through, what's important to me and how can I be my best version of myself at home and at work for the people that are relying upon me. And for me, the importance of family, of faith, of balance, making sure you're taking time to take care of yourself. All of those elements, I think, are so important and critical for you to be the best version of yourself when you show up for work. Because you have people that are relying on you, regardless of the level that you're at in an organization. People depend on you. And you need to make sure that you have the balance and the infrastructure and the support there to kind of help you take on some of those challenges at work, regardless of the level that you're at. And obviously, the more senior of a manager or leader you become in the organization, the more pressure, the more responsibility, the more stress, follows. And so good sleep, good nutrition, taking care of yourself with physical exercise, family, faith, relationships, and friendships become really, really important. And I always would tell my people, make sure you take time to have friends at work, people that you can just talk to, and shoot the breeze with, go to lunch with, get out of the office, get some fresh air. Those seem like small things, but the cumulative effect of doing those things really does help you bring some balance to your life, and it helps you to be better positioned to take on some of those challenges.
I feel like that's great advice that I've never heard before. I feel like that's something that can be definitely overlooked. So reflecting back, there's a lot of different ways to ask this question, but what do you feel like now that when you were at the age of 21, which is my age right now, that you wish you knew and that you could tell yourself?
Wow. Okay. So I would say, again, not to just beat a dead horse here, but never underestimate the value of your relationships with people. You never know where those relationships are going to take you. And I wish I would have done that a little bit earlier on in my career. I learned that as I became a manager, but even before I was in leadership ranks, I don't think I really understood how important those relationships were going to be. And some of the relationships that I formed early on in my career, or the people that I worked with, I still know today. And they may or may not be in CBP, they might be in other areas. And so never underestimate that, because that is absolutely essential, regardless of where you are in your career. But if you're early on in your career, I would say focus in on that. The other thing I would say is never miss out on an opportunity when it's presented to you. I think one of the things I did, and I did it early on and I did it throughout my career, is when an opportunity presented itself to me, I typically took it, even though it took me outside of my comfort zone. I was intimidated by some of those challenges. In some cases, I didn't know anything about the work that I was being asked to do, and I was a little nervous about it. But every single time I took on one of those challenges, Lexi, it gave me more tools, it gave me more skills, and it positioned me for future leadership roles in the future. To the point now that, towards the end of my career, I was able to problem solve in a way where I could rely on all of those different experiences, whether it was acquisition or technology or human resources or operational experience. I could bring that all together and look at the problem a little bit differently, and maybe look at creative and innovative ways to solve that problem based on all of those unique experiences. So if folks, regardless of where they're at in their career, if they're just starting out in their career, in the mid-career, or even later on, never miss an opportunity to take some of those new challenges that are thrown your way, because you will greatly benefit from them.
Yeah, I feel like that's great advice, take that risk.
Take the risk.
So talking about careers, we'll end with one final question. What is your advice for me or others who are not quite sure of, which career path to take?
I think that this is a very good question. And I think when you're younger in your career, it's almost impossible to know what you want to do. You know, my daughter recently graduated college. She has a great job, but I think she knows that in the future, she wants to do something maybe a little bit different or a little bit broader, or maybe go even into a leadership role in the future. And what I tell her is, follow your passion. And I know that's a very cliche topic, but if you don't really love the work that you're doing, you're not going to be happy, which means you're not going to give your best. And chances are you're not going to be as successful as you could be. So you really do need to do some bit of self-reflection about what really will make you happy, what will gratify you, what will feed that internal desire that makes you feel like you're contributing in some positive way in whatever area it may be. So I would say focus in on that. Even if your college degree is in one area, but you have a natural interest in another, don't let that deter you. That's another thing my daughter would say, but my degree is in, a given area. And I said, well, that's good. That's a tremendous sense of accomplishment. But if that's not where your natural interest is today, don't let that deter you. Continue to find ways to build on doing the work that you love, and you will become great at that work. And then as you become great at that work, more doors are going to open for you, because people are going to want to give you opportunities to do other things in other areas. And that's really how it works. So I know that sounds like a pretty cliche answer, but it's the one that's worked for me. And it's the one that I've followed throughout my career. I've been given any number of opportunities, and in my gut, I'm like, oh, I don't know, that just doesn't seem right. I don't know if that really sort of fits into where I want to be in the future. And that's okay. You don't have to take those opportunities. But when there is one that you say, yeah, this is exciting, I'm a little intimidated, I don't know much about it, but I know I'm going to get some new skills and I'm excited to learn about it, jump in with both feet and don't look back.
Wow, that is great advice. Um, so thank you so much for your time today. It's been, great to hear about your successes, and we can't thank you enough for giving back the time to, mentor myself in this session, but also all of the others who are going to listen to this interview. So thank you so much today for your time. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Lexi. The pleasure was all mine.
Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.